The devastating discovery of 19-year-old British teen Jay Slater's body in the mountains of Tenerife has left his grieving mother, Debbie Duncan, and the rest of his family utterly heartbroken. After weeks of searching, desperate appeals, and public outpourings of support, Spanish authorities confirmed that Jay's remains were found in a steep ravine, a perilous landscape described by locals as one of the most dangerous parts of the island. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, as the reality sinks in, Jay's mother has spoken through tears. Our hearts are broken. We will never recover from this. Jay was our beautiful boy, full of life, full of laughter, and he deserved so much more than this ending. What began as a missing person case filled with hope has turned into a tragedy that will haunt both his family and all those who followed his story. A holiday that ended in heartbreak. Jay, a young apprentice bricklayer from Oswaldtwistle, Lancashire, had flown to Tenerife with friends for a carefree holiday. They had planned to enjoy the beaches, nightlife, and freedom of youth, a short escape before returning to the routines of work and everyday life. But what should have been a joyous trip spiraled into horror. On June 17th, Jay was reported missing after leaving a rented Airbnb in the remote mountain village of Masca. The house was nearly 20 miles from the resort area where he had been staying with his friends. His phone's last signal was traced to a treacherous ravine nearby, sparking a desperate search that would last almost 4 weeks. His disappearance captured headlines across Britain and beyond. Thousands followed updates online, sharing posts, theories, and prayers. His mother Debbie flew to Tenerife within days, leading the family's anguished pleas for help. She described Jay as the most loving, cheeky, kind-hearted lad who lit up any room he walked into. "He was just a boy, my boy," she sobbed during interviews, clinging to hope that he would be found alive. The grueling search. From the very beginning, the landscape proved to be the biggest challenge. Masca sits in the Tenno Rural Park, a rugged region of sharp cliffs, tangled vegetation, and perilous drops. Local guides warned that the terrain was not only dangerous, but virtually impossible to navigate without experience. Spanish police, mountain rescue teams, drones, dogs, and helicopters were deployed in the search effort. For days, rescuers combed ravines, trails, and slopes. The heat was relentless and the paths treacherous. Volunteers, including British hikers familiar with the area, joined in to support the professional teams. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The family, meanwhile, refused to give up hope. Debbie set up a base in Tenerife, supported by relatives and close friends. They launched a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for accommodation, food, and private search efforts. The appeal touched thousands of hearts, eventually raising over £60,000. Every day brought new rumors, false sightings, and mounting frustration. Some criticized the pace of the official search, while others suggested darker possibilities, foul play, abduction, or even staged circumstances. But throughout it all, Debbie's voice remained steady. "I just want my boy back." The discovery in the ravine. On the 30th day of searching, Spanish authorities confirmed the news the family dreaded. Jay's body had been located deep in a ravine not far from where his phone had last pinged. Reports suggest he had suffered multiple injuries, consistent with a fall from height. His remains were difficult to recover due to the location, an almost vertical drop surrounded by loose rocks and undergrowth. The Guardia Civil later stated there was no immediate evidence of foul play, though a full autopsy is being conducted to determine the precise cause of death. For the family, however, the clinical details matter little. The stark truth is that their beloved son is gone. A mother's anguish. In her statement, Debbie Duncan poured out her grief in raw words that captured the depth of her loss. "Our hearts are broken. Jay was not just my son, he was my best friend, my everything. He had the biggest smile, the warmest hug, and the kindest soul. To think of him alone in those mountains breaks me in ways I cannot describe. We love him more than life itself, and that love will never die." She thanked the thousands who had supported the search, donated to the family's fund, and sent prayers and messages. "Your kindness has been our strength. We will never forget it," she said. But she also expressed anger and disbelief that such a tragedy could have happened on what was meant to be a safe, fun holiday. He should have come home to us. He should be here, laughing, planning his future. Instead, I'm planning his funeral. No mother should ever face this. Tributes to a beautiful boy. Back in Ozeltwizel, Jay's community has been plunged into mourning. Friends have left flowers, photos, and handwritten notes outside his family home. Social media has been flooded with tributes describing him as the life of the party, a loyal mate, and a beautiful soul taken too soon. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. One friend wrote, "He always had a joke, always had your back. I can't believe he's gone. The world is duller without him." Another said, "We all grew up together, played football in the park, messed about after school. Jay was one of a kind. Rest easy, brother." Local churches held vigils where candles were lit, prayers were offered, and songs were sung in his memory. Strangers who had never met him but had followed his story online expressed sorrow and solidarity with his family. Theories and questions. Despite the confirmation of his death, questions remain. Why did Jay leave the Airbnb in the first place? How did he end up in such a dangerous part of the mountains without proper supplies or guidance? Could he have been misled, or was it simply a tragic accident? Some speculate that, disoriented and without transport, Jay may have attempted to hike back to the tourist area. Others suggest he might have gotten lost after a night of partying. While police have stated there is no evidence of foul play, the family has urged a full investigation to rule out any other possibilities. Debbie emphasized, "We need to know exactly what happened. He deserves that, and we deserve answers." The toll on the family. For Debbie and her other children, the ordeal has been a nightmare with no end in sight. In addition to their grief, they now face the painful logistics of bringing Jay's body home, arranging a funeral, and navigating the legal complexities of a death abroad. The GoFundMe money, originally intended to sustain the search, will now be used to cover repatriation costs and funeral arrangements. Debbie has promised that any remaining funds will go toward charitable causes in Jay's name. She said, "He was such a generous boy. If we can help others in his memory, that will be his legacy." Tenerife locals speak out. Locals in Masca and surrounding villages have expressed sorrow but also frustration. Many warned early on that the terrain was unforgiving and that inexperienced visitors often underestimated its dangers. One guide told reporters, "Those mountains are beautiful but deadly. Even experienced hikers can get into trouble." For a young lad with no supplies, no water, and no proper shoes, it's almost impossible to survive. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Yet others feel more could have been done sooner. "It took far too long," one resident said. "We said from the start to check the ravine, but it wasn't properly searched until weeks later." A nation grieves. Jay's story has resonated so deeply because it touches on every parent's worst nightmare, a child lost in a foreign land, unreachable, suffering, and ultimately gone forever. His youth, his ordinary background, and his infectious smile made him relatable to so many. Across Britain, his name has become synonymous with both hope and heartbreak. Online communities that once shared search maps and theories are now posting black and white photos and memorial messages. His school released a statement calling him a bright spark who left a lasting impression. His former employers described him as hardworking, eager to learn, and full of life. The long road ahead. For Debbie and her family, the grief is only beginning. Experts say the trauma of losing a child, especially in such sudden and mysterious circumstances, can take years to process. Support groups and grief counselors have reached out, offering help. Friends have pledged to stand by the family through the painful months ahead. Debbie has already vowed to campaign for greater awareness about travel safety, particularly for young people heading abroad. "If Jay's story can save just one life, then at least some good will come from this horror," she said. Holding on to his memory. In the end, what remains are memories. His laugh, his cheeky grin, the way he would burst into a room and make everyone smile. Family photos of Christmas mornings, birthdays, and lazy Sundays now take on a sacred importance. Debbie keeps saying the same words over and over. "He was beautiful." inside and out. My beautiful boy. And that is how he will be remembered. Not just as a headline, not just as a tragedy, but as a son, a brother, a friend, and a young man whose life, though heartbreakingly short, was filled with love. Conclusion. The discovery of Jay Slater's body in Tenerife marks the end of a desperate search, but the beginning of a lifetime of grief for his family. His mother's words, "Our hearts are broken," echo the sorrow of all who have followed his story. The mountains of Tenerife will forever hold the memory of a young British lad who wandered too far, lost his way, and never returned. But in the hearts of those who loved him, Jay will never be lost. He will remain, always, their beautiful boy. Subscribe the channel to get such videos.